to these all. We are not yet part of the team. What will make us part of a team is our ability to adjust to the systems and structures put in place by the team. This does not mean that if you have an idea that can improve a team, you just keep quiet and conform. It means your new ideas can be suggested, and if agreed upon, are endorsed, can be uniformly implemented in the right manner. I am reminded of a great footballer who transferred to a certain big team. It was obviously a better opportunity with greater prospects. He was then given the schedule for the team. By 6:30 a.m., everyone should be in the field. Wherever he came from, they used to practice mostly in the evenings. So he had problems waking up and got late the first day by 15 minutes. The following day, he was late again by about 20 minutes. When he got late the third time, he was dismissed immediately by the head coach. He could not adjust. He was not adapting fast. There is a team element I like talking about in one of my talks on results. It's called culture. Every organization has a culture, defined or otherwise, and there is a way it influences the overall output of the team. When a new team member is joining, he or she has to find a place within the existing culture. An example is when I left my first job, where a necktie was part of a daily requirement, to an organization where neckties were extremely rare and optional to the extent that when one appears in a tie, the most common question was, "Where is the interview you are scheduled for?"
In one organization, reporting is 9 a.m., while elsewhere it is 8 a.m. This organization could be using titles like sir, madam, etc. On the contrary, another organization uses names for individuals, e.g. Peter, Tom, Rebecca, etc. We all need to adapt if we are going to be of value to our teams. In shopping for valuable team members, we need to find out their ability to adjust to our systems and culture. It affects productivity in a massive way. I once gave a talk about this, customized for a local bank, and the bank manager asked at the end how I got to know that they had been working hard on this issue. It is that important. Dependability. By far, observing a choral performance can offer great insight in this subject of teamwork. Through such, I have come to appreciate that being available does not necessarily constitute being dependable. You could be available, but your availability is as good as your unavailability. You just add numerical numbers, perhaps only good for moral support. A team member of value should aim higher than that. The fundamental question is, are you competent enough to actually do what you are supposed to do? If it is a meeting, do you contribute, or yours is just silence? Silence that knows. In a choral team, for example, at one time or another, the attendance would be small, but the present members would be up to the task. The director of the day would look at them and get confident that the performance would be great. Other times, the same number of people, or even a larger attendance with different faces, would not guarantee the same level of performance, and the director gets to labor pain. It's very advisable that you do not just be a member of the team, but be an active and competent one whose presence rejuvenates the confidence of the team. Be dependable. That's the only way your availability is going to be of value. Keep working on your skills and make your team proud. There is a common belief that silence is good. I have come to believe that silence is overrated. I have had lots of frustrations about this in our current day and age of WhatsApp groups, where everyone is quiet, even if someone asks a question that should call for a discussion. This is timidity and naivety disguised as wisdom, far from it. I have also been to meetings where no one wants to talk until you call their names. Others will not say anything even if you urge them to do so. In other words, they just form the quorum, but do not contribute in fleshing out the idea in question. Better a team member who openly disagrees with an opinion and criticizes it than one who is dumb. Others will only speak what is politically correct, as opposed to saying what they really feel. It's a very unfortunate situation. But those are some of the problems leaders always have to contend with. Wherever I take people for a team building, occasionally I create a scenario that calls for team selection and finally brings out the idea of trading off team members. My biggest question is often, who would you like to trade off for another person? Over to you reading my question would be, do you think given a chance your team would want to trade you off for another member? Does your availability count? Are you an asset or a liability to your team? Think about it. I have come to accept that it's better to have a lean team of effective and competent members rather than an exploded version with all manner of faces but mean performance. Having dependable members in a team makes life easy for everyone, including the leader. Being non-dependable deflates your team and equally denies you the joy of being part of the team. With commitment, everyone is able to shine, and thus the team shines. Only dependable members of the team get lucky and receive bigger opportunities. And it starts with the leader. The leader must be dependable in the first place to attract dependable members.
You can always do with some more teaching and training, with some new ideas and knowledge. Every sharp knife is so because it gets sharpened often. The moment a team member feels that he or she already knows it all and accepts no more training or new ideas, that person starts to rot, which means negative value to the team. It is important to stay fresh. Teachability is an attitude issue. Everyone can learn as long as they have a positive attitude. Leaders, experts, name them, all can learn. No one knows everything. There is to be known. As mentioned earlier, when discussing about teams, I like to think of T in the word team as trained and trainable. There is no end to learning for a team. That is why choirs keep practicing forever, and the moment they stop, they are dead. A certain instrumentalist once said, "If I do not practice for 1 day, I will notice it. If I fail to practice for 2 days, my audience will notice." It is the same for all types of teams, whether a soccer, taekwondo, sales, customer service, or whatever team. On one hand, if you have a member who cannot be trained, his level of productivity will eventually go down and ultimately weigh in on the performance of the entire team. On the other hand, if you train less often, the same is going to happen. It is unfortunate that so many organizations view training as an expense. They want to make more money fast, then train. More or less, like milking a cow first, then it produces enough milk. Then if it produces enough milk, you get money to buy it grass and water. In fact, research shows that training improves results more than 3 times as compared to buying new equipment or restructuring. Training is a capital investment, just like seed capital. You better ensure it is included in your budget plans. As a certain business leader once said to us, it is when you feel you have known it all that you need to even train harder. This is someone running a global organization with millions of dollars in passive income. What a paradox. I come to realize that the more you know, the more you realize how little you know and how much more there is to learn. At least this is true with me. As my friend Robert Miner likes to say, I quote a quote they learned in the military: train hard, fight easy. When you train hard, the fight will be easy. I agree. I had a very negative attitude about learning how to sell and the whole concept of selling. My team did terribly. Why? It is because my attitude determines the attitude of my team. My business was a flop until I opened my heart to learning about attending a particular talk by a certain speaker. Things changed then immediately. John Warden says, it's what you learn about after you know it all that counts. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts. If you're going to continue to be of any value to your team, then you must accept to be a perpetual learner. Stay open to learning from any source, young and old, senior and junior. There is a Luo proverb that says, even fingerlings teach tilapia. This means that with proper attitude, you can learn even from your juniors as well. The fact that they are juniors does not make them less knowledgeable in all there is to know. For a team member to be teachable, he or she must learn to listen and give an objective audience to whoever is speaking. I had learned in my childhood from experience that if I listen enough to anyone, even to a madman talking alone in the market, it is possible that I will gain some fundamental philosophy that may directly or after some meditation make a positive impact in my life. The person speaking may not necessarily understand what he or she spoke, but I might gain something. I guess this may work for everyone. At that time, my listening was inspired by an insatiable thirst for knowledge. The major problem is that many people do not know how to listen. They only know how to keep quiet while impatiently waiting for a chance to speak, and therefore always busy thinking of what to say next instead of listening keenly. One of my teachers liked to say, listen with your skin, in order to emphasize the need to pay attention to the person speaking. Some of the biggest breakthroughs have come from unlikely sources because the leader listened. I have discussed more on the topic in my previous publication, Live Your Dream in 7 Ds, which is available online via Amazon. Over and above individual learning, the team must be teachable and trainable. The team must always be willing and ready to learn. The attitude of the team emanates from the attitude of the leader. Even the vocabulary of the leader influences the vocabulary of the team members.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was great. Now let's give input. Dr. Eda, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think this is a very good passage, and the 3 articles are very important. For start with teachability. There's a saying that I really like, and it says that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn and learn and relearn. So the real illiterates of the 21st century are those who cannot learn new things. People have such fixed ideas, and you find that those are the ones who are the most difficult to teach. And partly why I really love working with the youth, because they are very much more teachable, perhaps, than the older ones. It can be very frustrating. And also what you said about learning something new every day, because the day I stop learning will be the day that I die. So, and there's also another saying that always assume that the other person knows something that you don't. Simon Sinek said that the best leaders always speak last. So if you're in a meeting with your team members, never give your ideas first, because that one preempts everything and people will not give their ideas. But if you listen to everybody with a neutral attitude, then you will get so much information that you can use as you're taking the notes. Then you speak last, because you come to the meeting probably with something that you had in mind, but listening to the other people will give you greater insight. And if you say that at the beginning, what you had planned to say, if you say that at the beginning, then you will spoil everything, because they will not say what they wanted to say or what they have. So I love that saying, that always assume the other person knows something that you don't know. And it doesn't matter what the socio-economic status is, because they will always say something that you need to hear. So listening is a very important skill.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're done?
Paul, I think this is a very powerful book. And these three aspects of leadership are really very, for me, quite instrumental in leadership. I would go with dependability. When we talk of dependability, and what you're saying here is really important, then being available is not always dependable. Yeah, that you can be available and not really be there, not really just, I think of the dead weight, that yes, you're in the team, but your contribution really is not felt. Yeah, and even when you talk about who would you trade, as in think of yourself as the importance to the team. Is it a liability or is it an asset? For me, that is a really powerful point, that being part of a team really is broader than just being there. You need to have your inputs felt. You need to have the team just need to bring and take a team to a different level, whether as a leader or as a team member, that you just being there is not enough. Your competency, your just ability to bring a difference in the team really matters. And of course, teachability. Yeah, there is no end to learning. I keep telling my little girl that I learned so much from her, and she's like, really, mom? Yeah, she feels like at 9, what would I really learn from her? But I find learning such a continuous thing, that you can learn from anybody and anything. Yeah, and yeah, these are really good points. Thank you.
Morning, OPP and team.
Morning.
I've loved the adaptability part. Some time ago, when I was getting into the job market, I happened to find myself inside an insurance company. And one of the key things I grappled with was the adaptability aspect. You know, in the insurance industry, necktie is a must. And then I was one of these young guys who was never so official. And so I was forced, the first day when I reported to work, I was forced to learn so many things about the company. And I was told one of the key things you need to have for you to be in this company is you always have to don a necktie. So it was a tough decision to make, But of course, with time, I came to adapt and realize that it was the order of business in that industry. So it's a concept that as a leader, we always need to have in place. And I also realized going through the text today that as a leader, you need to be someone who listens a lot. And just like Paeda said, most probably, even as you listen, always purpose to give your comment after you've listened to everyone in your team. And again, a leader, you need to have a teachable spirit. Always purpose to learn from your team members. Nobody is perfect. You can always learn one or two things from your team members. So those are the key things I've learned today. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Patrick, you were to say something?
Good morning, all. My takeout today is I would go on teachability and also dependability. Key issue being, you remember when we were young, people used to ask, nani anaweza tegemewa? Ama they used to say, huyu si wa kutegemewa. So as a leader, when you're maturing into the leadership steps, you need to have that dependability such that the people that are looking up to you will feel that they have someone they can depend on, and you can also teach them, trickle it down to them. Also, the teachability, you need to be teachable. See, there are some leaders who they know it all types. We had a boss who was like that. They know it all. You could not say anything during the meeting. When you stand to say anything, say, no. I know what you're about to say. So the conversation would end up there. People used to hate that boss so much. And we really celebrated when he was transferred. You can see. So as a leader, if you learn to emulate and learn from the other people, you will go far. And as someone said previously, everyone has something that you do not know. So they can teach you and you can learn. And in that way, as a leader, you'll keep on growing. You'll keep on sharpening your skills every now and then. That's my takeout.
Thank you, Patrick. As others are preparing, let me just share that these are some of the fundamentals I learned in leadership. I developed this list called the 6 abilities, the 6 critical abilities of a valued team member. And last time we started with the simple one called availability. It looks simple, but very hard. And today we're going to this called adaptability. It's a big thing. Yeah, we tend to have our own history affecting our future. Where I have come from, that is where that is what it defines. We let our past to define us, and so we take long to adapt to the new situation. Even today, people are talking about COVID, and lots of things have changed. The workplaces have changed, the way people work, and all sorts of things. But we take time before we adapt to the new things, the new environment, the new way of doing things. And this somewhat makes us lag behind as team members and even as leaders. We must be willing to adapt. We must be willing to accept the new realities and be able to move forward. If we are stuck where we were yesterday, we become a cake. In the book, Who Moved My Cheese, the author says, if I cannot change, then I become extinct. If I cannot change, I become extinct. It's very, very important that we always keep an open mind to the new realities and adjust and adapt. And this is something you will meet a lot in corporate world and generally in life. The example I gave there is when I changed jobs. But this is true all the times as a leader. You realize that maybe you're running your organization like mine. When I'm going to meet prospects, what type of prospect is this? How am I supposed to dress for meeting that particular prospect? When I'm going to this particular function, how should I appear? I may be somebody who loves casual, semi-casual jeans and the likes, but I know that the event I'm going to requires me to be like this. The people I'm going to meet will expect me to be like this and something like that. So I keep adjusting depending on where am I going, whom am I going to meet, what is the situation. And this is why we cannot just be strict to our way of doing things. And anyone in business knows that selling is a big part of your business. And you've got to know how should you present yourself in whichever the situation. And basically, even if you're a lead, you're a teacher, you are a director of an orchestra, wherever you are, there is what is expected of you. And so you just want to also be somebody who can adapt. You do not resist change. You do not resist a condition where which will in the long run hinder your growth and development. And the other thing is being dependable. I love to say that first, even when we are growing, we are dependent. And then we should aim, and even when we are building our children, we should aim to build them to be independent. They grow to become independent. But that is not enough. They should grow beyond that level to reach where they are dependable. Dependable are these people. If it's your child, you can go somewhere and you're not worried about how your house will be or how home will be because they are dependable people. When you have dependable team members, you have nothing to worry about because you know things will take care of themselves. There are people who will take charge. They will take care of any situation that comes in. It's very important to be dependable. And as a leader, if you cannot be dependable, including in your words and deeds, when you say something and we cannot depend on what you just said, we just know, well, maybe not, really believe it, then we know then you can be sure that your leadership will have a problem. Staying dependable, building your ability to be somebody who can be depended upon, and building your team members to be people who can be depended upon. Otherwise, you'll be very busy throughout your life. You will not be able to run things very well. The other thing is this spirit of teachability. A friend of mine in Uganda, Moses Nwabino, once said a number of years ago in one of our trainings that if you wake up in the morning and leave your day and go back to sleep in the evening and you realize you've never learned a thing, then get to know you are growing old. That is the best way to know you're growing old. And I think he's right. You know, most of us, I learned that mostly ordinary people will learn only in the news, from the news, from newspapers and things like that. And how much do we learn from that? Not much, perhaps just gossip. We need to be deliberate about our personal development. If we have team members who are not learning, there is no way our team will grow. Maxwell says that the team that took you to the previous championship will not take you to the next championship. Maybe their work was just to reach you the previous championship. And so if you expect a lot from a previous team, the previous thinking, there is nothing much that will happen. And as Einstein said, we cannot solve problems with the same mental attitude or the same mindset that created them. That's part of the reason I have a problem with us recycling politicians or political leaders, because they are the same people who've largely contributed to the current problems that we have. When we are talking about high cost of living, debt, whatever, all these stories, corruption, they are the people who created them. We cannot really expect any change or any solution from the same mindset. And the same applies to us. The old us must keep going away as the new us come in. And this is why I think it's said in the Bible that being born anew, Being born anew means you are not the same old self, the same philosophy, the same thinking that you had that has brought you where you are. And we've got to be people who are renewing ourselves day in, day out, becoming more loving the ability to learn and the opportunities to learn so that we keep growing. And that is the only thing that is going to add us value in the marketplace. When we become team members, when we become members of a team who are valuable, we grow in value, then our value in the marketplace is growing. And as we often say, or I often say, you cannot hide an elephant. You grow in your leadership, grow in your ability, in your skills, and even if you are not getting paid enough as you think you should be, somebody else will pick you and pay you, because you cannot hide an elephant, and the universe does not owe anyone anything. If you do more, ultimately, whether now or later, you will get more. That's the way it works. So we must stay open to the attitude of learning. If we stop learning, we start rotting, we start growing old. And that goes hand in hand with listening. I love telling the story of how there are a number of stories related, but let me talk about how this law firm managed to solve a problem. There was a critical case, a big case that they were handling with. They were trying to find a solution for it. So they woke up very early in the morning, went to the office, brainstormed, and nothing much was coming up. And seeing how they are frustrated, a cleaner asked, what seems to be, what is troubling you? You seem troubled. I was asking the owner or the major partner of this law firm. And this guy had a very good attitude. So he explained to him, you know, we seem to be having a problem. There is a very serious case here, which is due for hearing mid-morning, but we still don't seem to be having headways about it. And the lady looked at him and said, I don't think that should trouble you. Have you really checked if that case is valid? Maybe it's not even valid. She did not even understand much about what she was saying. But then that gave some insight, and these people started pecking on this case. Maybe you're right. They went and said, is it really valid? Is this a valid case? And by the way, it proved to be invalid in law. And that's the way they managed to win. The same thing goes for another story for an elevator, where nowadays we have elevators protruding outside the building. It started by a cleaner, by the way, a cleaner who was pissed off when these people were moving the things around and making the place where she had cleaned dirty. She said, why are you troubling? Why? I've just cleaned this place. You keep walking up and down. What are you looking for? And then she was told, you know, the elevator that we are using on the other end is congested. It doesn't seem to be serving enough. We'd like to create another one here. So we're actually going to dig this place. But then she said, why can't you do it outside? And that simple statement brought the insight. We can build it outside and connect it. And that is the way elevators nowadays are built outside. It takes listening. Listening with your skin, listening with interest, listening to draw something from within, not listening to respond. Apparently, enough people I've met who claim to be listeners actually don't listen. And that is where we can be as leaders. We may think we are listening, but we don't listen. The question is, are we ready to listen to what our people are saying? Are we ready to give audience? And if we are proven to be people who don't listen, just like Patrick was saying, then nobody will be willing to share anything with us, because they know, that person won't listen. He won't even give you audience. He won't give you an opportunity. So we must be these people who are interested in listening. And when we are listening, I love saying that leaders listen to what is not said. Leaders read what is not written. You see, and we hear what is not verbalized. So when we listen keenly, we listen with our hearts, we are going to be able to listen to even that which they are not saying. And we will be able to come up with better solutions for the problems. So we must be people who endeavor to listen in order to keep learning. People who are teachable, we have open heart, open mind to keep learning. And I think this has really helped me. Listening to even unfamiliar sources and then staying adaptable. Thank you very much. I see some people have been inspired to share. And so let's listen to Chris finally, and then Elsie.
Hi, Paul. I trust you're able to hear me well.
Yes, yes, I can hear you from one side and see your hand on the other side.
Yeah, the time you're calling me to talk, I was not in a position to talk, but right now I can share maybe one or two words. Maybe what I've learned through the meeting.
Yeah, go on.
Actually, I concur with everything that you have said, according to what you are saying, everything. And listening is one of the part that myself I'm learning also. And my late dad used to tell me, when you learn to listen, you'll conquer a lot of things actually. Women know this. They love to be listened. I've learned this the hard way. For me, I had a problem when you're talking. I'm there crafting in my mind what to tell you, the question. So I love the idea that you're saying we should listen with our skin and with our mind and everything, with our soul. We listen to the person. And also the part of teachability. I agree with you. And with your book, that everyone should be open to be taught, regardless of whether the state in life where you are. When I was in the university, we had a very good lecturer. He was called Dr. Mirega. Mirega will do sessions to parliamentary, to MPs. He will do sessions to MC Kinsey, to organizations here in Kenya, 3M, all of them. But I realized this man was reading one book. I don't know, it was 5 days, one book or per week. So I would wonder, this man, he was in a very good expert. In fact, he was being, people came to consult him even from outside the country. They came to consult just to hear his advice. Then he was my friend. Then I asked him, I was wondering, why does he read so much? He even told us sometime in class that he was reading up. One time he went to the doctor and he was told that his cornea had a problem because of, I don't know, it was reading or I don't know, it was reading or what made his cornea to be to such an extent. But now when you have shared that, at least I've learned now. Great leaders read, and I've been now see the time that I've been able to research about corporate leaders. Most of them, they read a lot. That's what I've learned through the years. Another one is the last is finish is availability. Last week we talked about availability and also being available for your team. But also I wish to add, but there are people when we are available, but you're not present. You're just logging in the meeting and these people just logging for the sake of logging. And I've seen this in corporates. There's a meeting, people are just logging in, that just people that they go. And it can be very irritating for somebody who's doing a training and you're calling people and people are not even, no one is responding. So people are just logging in for the sake of logging in. It's not for them to be present there 100%. Lastly, this thing that I learned a few weeks ago, that everyone's idea counts, regardless of the situation in life. And I agree with the story that Paul has given of a cleaner who made people think and provoked their thinking to such an extent. I've learned this the hard way. That's why my family involved in decision making. I can hear a point that even strikes my mind, even that I was not even thinking of. Even in organization, people that you might even see that in your mind that you have underestimated, maybe they can't give a valid point, but that person ends up provoking your thinking and gives you even a better idea. Even sometimes I ask myself, I never even saw this. How come I never saw what he or she was sharing? Thank you, Paul Peter. Those are my points that I like.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you. Thank you. Leaders read a chapter a day. We will close with that. Elsie?
Yeah, for me, I finally got it. Adaptability. If there's anything that's constant in life, it's change. So I must be able to adapt. For me to adapt, I must be teachable. And for me to be teachable, I have to be humble. So for adaptability, for teachability, and also dependability, I must be humble enough to learn from whoever it is that is around me or in my space at whatever time, be it the security guard, be it the janitor, be it my children, be it my spouse, be it even you at this time, whoever it is who's in my life, I can learn from you. But if I'm going to learn from you and listen to what you're saying, I must be humble enough. So the word that I take away from it, from this session today, is humble yourself. And the good book says, if you don't humble yourself, God will actually humble you. And I don't want to be humbled by God. It's for me to humble myself. And it's not for me to pray for God to humble me. Hey, that's a dangerous prayer. That's a topic for another day.
Thank you very much, Elsie. Yes, it takes a lot of humility to be able to listen, to bring yourself down, to listen to people, and more so when your perspective is they are lower than you. And I will finish with this, that Chris has talked about people being available and not present. And that is why we were talking about dependability. They are not dependable. We need to be dependable. That was the number 2. And about reading, the guy I was talking about who was saying, it is when you feel you've learned it all, you've known it all, that you need to read the hardest. Leaders read. Thank you very much for your presence today. It's already 3 minutes after the time. We meet here, if you are here for the first time, we meet every Monday from 7:30 to 8:15. But we can log in as early as 7 just to network and catch up with our fellow members.